Hello again. I thought I would leave the last bit of, this is the last thing I'm going to talk about for Unit 2 in microeconomics. Just two important concepts I thought I'd go over. Again, no added instructions here, which, judging by the statistics or analytics or whatever in YouTube, means I'm talking to a snow day's worth of kids and students in the class. So hello to three of you. Maybe five. Anyway, these are important concepts if you're going to go into anything to do with, business, finance, but obviously economics for sure. And they're just things that are good to understand. So the first one, the idea of total and marginal utility. So remember, utility is that measurement of satisfaction that you get out of consuming whatever it would be. So overall, this is holding that the price remains constant through the whole thing. As you can see, just below 100. The marginal utility is going to be a constantly falling number, right? It's going to be a downsloping line, which makes sense because if you think about it in terms of, slices of pizza, your first slice of pizza is probably the best slice of pizza, and then it just goes down from there until you're too full to have another piece of pizza. And then your satisfaction becomes negative if you keep eating at that point. That's why, though, the marginal utility is going to be a downsloping line. And then your total utility, again, continues to rise as you consume until it hits that negative point. So you can see, I gotta get the pen out, I didn't think I'd use that. It won't come out. Stuck in the side of this thing. There we go. Got it. I know there's lots of panicking. So as you see, when it crosses this threshold, that's a nice straight line. Not really. When it crosses the threshold 0 in terms of utility, so once it becomes negative, that's when the total utility starts to fall. Because it's no longer adding to your utility. Instead, it is making you less satisfied because, again, if you're eating pizza, eventually they're going to start making you feel sick. And so you're going to be less satisfied than when you started. Okay, so that's the idea of total and marginal utility, that eventually total utility starts to fall as your marginal utility goes below 0. Okay? This gets more complex, of course, but this is the basic idea of it. Okay, the other one was... Wait. Did I just... Yep, I did. The other one is exactly the same. What are you doing? I meant to put this one on there. Look at that. You get to see how the sausage is made. I never liked that as a statement. I don't really want to see how a sausage is made, personally. Gross. Anyway, here we go. So the other one was the law of diminishing returns, and I thought, again, it's an important concept. It's similar. The one thing is, I don't know, you see some of these graphs that show that the total output drops. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Like, they have this line being total output. That doesn't make sense at all. This is production. So now as you add labor, and you add, could be machines, it could be money, it could be usable goods, right, that lead to the production of something, so steel or whatever. As you add to it, right, your returns continue to climb to a certain point, and as soon as they get to this point, you are no longer adding. This could be a certain amount of hours. This could be, again, a certain amount of machines. Could be a lot of things. Once you get to that point, you're no longer adding to an increase in productivity. Past that point, you're starting to hit a plateau where extra inputs are either not effective or, even worse, they start to diminish. So you get the idea of increasing return, a diminishing return, and then eventually a negative return. Now so increasing return is obviously as the line slopes. Any kind of plateau at the top, right? That's a diminishing return because you're not getting as if you think of it like a fire, you add wood to the fire and the fire keeps getting bigger. Eventually, as you add wood to the fire, it doesn't get bigger, right? It stays the same. So the return for each piece of wood you put on the fire becomes zero. You don't gain. And then eventually you start to lose. And so that's, as they increase input, they find that they are not actually increasing their total. They're not increasing, sorry, they're just going to make that mistake. They're not increasing their per capita or per unit output. It's actually starting to fall. So people are becoming less productive, or each unit of steel produces fewer cars, or whatever it is, right? So in the fire example, each stick of fire, where do you buy sticks of fire? What a dangerous product. Stick of fire. Anyway, each stick of wood contributes to, if you're looking for, say, the size or the heat of the fire, eventually the amount, right, that each one will add to it becomes zero, because then each stick does not add any more to the fire, and eventually your returns become negative. So you get, not only do you get no gain, you're getting actually less output. So if you hit a wall of machines and then you keep adding workers, well, eventually the amount of workers you have in the warehouse, they're going to produce less per worker than if you had, let's say there's 50 machines and 50 workers. That would be, let's say, the ultimate or the optimal level. If you added 51 workers and you had 2 people on one machine, the average return out of each worker would fall, because the one person would have to share a machine, or now 2 people, and that would continue to make it fall. But so that's your marginal output would start to fall. However, in some of the graphs I've seen, your total output's still going to continue to rise. It's not like you reach 50 employees and the 51st one starts destroying the output of the previous 50. You're making cars, and you're out to put a car out an hour. I don't know how long it takes to make a car. I probably should look that up before I said that. Let's say car per hour, whatever. That's probably too late. Anyway, can't let that go now. Car per hour, you add 51 workers. It's not like it's a car per hour, but then this 51st guy is a lunatic and he blows up every 40th car. And so you're not averaging one. That's not why. It's just that you've now added 51 paid workers, and that one car per hour didn't go up. So your overall productivity has fallen, and that's what you get. That's what that is, except for you're still producing more than you were before. So the total output still grows, whereas the marginal one falls. So hopefully those two things made sense to you, for the 3 of you that are looking at it, as I said. The other thing I was going to do is I was going to show you a blank page. No, I was going to show you some pages from a university textbook that I still have, just to give you an idea of microeconomics in university. So if this stuff, you like this stuff, and like this is, you do this in high school, right? It just has different meanings and different interpretations and things you have to know, but just showing you the different things that you'd have in there. So again, one of the big things is, of course, graphing parabolas and knowing where that midpoint is. That's a really big part of it, and knowing where the very end of it is. Whoops, how did I do that? I don't know how I did that. That was kind of cool. Is this the one I was on? That one. And then I went to this one. Okay, so this, how do I? Guess I shouldn't play with it. Anyway, this is the idea of utility of wealth. Oh, look at that. It's fun if I did that. Maybe that there. If I hold it like this, that'll help you, I think. So the utility of wealth as just looking at, this is looking at risk aversion. Again, the other thing I found difficult with in terms of wealth, not wealth, was utility, is there's no actual, it's not a measurement of anything. When you think about it, it's a made-up statistic. So you're not measuring like the amount of bricks or something. You're measuring the level of satisfaction. I always had a problem with like, how do you measure something that you can't measure? You can't get a tape measure out and measure how satisfied I am with, listening to myself talk, which is very high, by the way, very high. All right, moving on. So here we've got our utility curves, right? And so you'd need to know where along those curves it touches either the demand curve or sometimes the production possibilities curve. So it's just talking about that and how to rotate those things. These are dumb. Kidding. Yeah, indifference curves. Like, come on, really? So you can see, things ramp up a little bit. And then, of course, you've got marginal utility. Anyway, I'm just showing you this is a service to show you if you're interested in micro, what you're looking forward to in the early parts. And of course, the more you get into it, the more robust, I guess we'll call it gets. But yeah, so there you go. It's an interesting world of microeconomics. So we're going to do macro next. I got to say, economics is one of those subjects that I think, for the most part, people think if you know economics, oh, well, you must be pretty smart. And then if you know microeconomics, they think you're like a genius. If you know macroeconomics, you could end up being like a crackpot, because everybody has opinions about how much tax and how much government should spend and all that stuff, but they don't have the actual numbers to back it up, and they don't sometimes know what affects what. But I think it's an interesting dichotomy between the two fields of economics that I find interesting. Anyway, yeah, so there you go for the 3 to 5 of you that'll watch this. Just a little bit of information. Hopefully somebody goes for economics. It's cool. See ya Tuesday.